Students from my New Testament introduction class, Tommy here with a message for you in light of all that has been taking place since the end of our class meetings. I think we've entered something of a official state of emergency as a society. I say it that way because I think that many of you have been experiencing life in our society as an ongoing emergency. And it's only now that it becomes sort of official when the threat reaches certain people in certain numbers to justify declaring a more official state of emergency. In light of all the challenges in your lives right now, let me just first tell you that you may have until the end of the weekend to submit your final reflection paper. Fuller has given us permission to grant extensions like this, and I want to just give that to everybody until Monday. If your circumstances are such that that is not enough time, please get in touch with me so that we can work something out. I want to be responsive to the particular difficulties that you may be facing with all of the changes in work, family, responsibilities, etc. It's not lost on what comes from precisely these kinds of circumstances and is meant to address them. Apocalyptic literature. And it's called unveiling because the vision unveils what is already the case, but that many people have difficulty seeing. It also is enabling people to respond to their moment so that they can be messengers of justice, of peace. And I trust that as you're reflecting on the book of Revelation, but just the wider themes of our class, that you are feeling God's call in your life to be someone who speaks wisely, who sets an example when there is an atmosphere of scarcity and understandable panic. Our communities desperately need people who are thoughtful, who are thinking of their own lives as part of the whole communities that they're part of. So I hope that you'll be able to draw on our learning in our class, and especially reflecting on the apocalypse, to be able to be a reliable presence in these days, especially a presence that is empowered to extend care to others who need it. And I know that care is going to take many forms. I'm not sure what our wider society is in for in the months ahead, but I expect the difficulties to accumulate and there to be vacuums of power that people will scramble to fill. And we want to be mindful of the power that God has given us to be messengers of reform for the sake of the well-being of our neighbors, but especially those who have been systematically oppressed by the ongoing emergency of our society for a long, long time. I've just been thinking about how the book of Revelation shows us that we need certain kinds of images to lay bare a brutal reality that is otherwise sanitized by established powers. And that is one of the reasons why apocalyptic language and thought is not only needed, but effective for helping us to awaken, to remain awake to the circumstances in which we find ourselves. In the Roman world, the imperial powers, the established authorities in Jerusalem often kept up an image of keeping up the appearances of dutiful worship in Jerusalem. And it takes an apocalyptic mentality to be able to expose that kind of veneer for what it is. I think you can see how the spread of disease, which was a common phenomenon in the ancient world, you can see a lot of the effect of that on Scripture and the way that it presents the effects of that kind of pestilence and disease as a part of the economy, you might say, of God's revelation, because as we're seeing in our own moment, disease has a way of laying bare the injustices that have been perpetrated under the cover of supposed normalcy. So I hope this will feed your reflections on the book of Revelation. It still obviously requires wisdom to read it, because when we're feeling threatened, when we're perhaps full of intense emotions, our interpretations can be rushed. They can reflect a panic that is not sound. And yet the wisdom, I think, that promotes good interpretation of Revelation will not underestimate the gravity of danger and injustice that people are facing, but instead will empower them to face it with grace. I hope that you'll find your study of Revelation, reflecting on it, to do that for you, to empower you to be insightful about our moment, truthful about it, so that you can be a presence of grace among your neighbors. I'll be praying for that myself, for you in these days. And as I said, please take until the end of the weekend to finish your reflection paper if you haven't already. Several of you have already submitted it. So I'm looking forward to reading those. And if the changes that are sort of constantly barraging us are affecting you to such a degree that you need more time than the end of the weekend to finish your reflection paper, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. God give you peace.